My name is Cooper Tilson, and I'm studying the history of CREEK Manor.
What a project.
Well, it's what I do. I do documentaries.
Yeah.
You know, my personal photographs, all laid out on the table. Real personal stuff to me. How much you getting for that movie about my family? Huh? Oh, don't worry. I'll be sure and buy the DVD.
Let Dennis play camera right closer. We were setting up the movie, and you know, Dennis's character became this sort of docu filmmaker, you know, sort of indie dude sort of thing, which is a character I know quite well. You know, I'm very happy with that character. He makes documentaries from home, which we all can do now. We've got our computers and our DV cams and all the rest of it. He's a historian, so he makes interesting but low-budget, you know, documentaries about architecture or whatever. The minute he moves into the house, it's full of junk, and it's full of history.
There's a lot of artifacts in the house. There's a lot of photographs, maps of the old place, all the furniture, trophies. Everything is there in the house the way that it was, only it's sort of dust covered. And I decided to make a documentary film about this house.
What's all this stuff?
It's all things from the family that lived here before.
The family lived here before?
Yeah, the Masseys.
And not only the former owners, but every generation previous, all the Massey, all the stuff was there, which created this gold mine for a guy like Cooper, who's a documentary filmmaker who gets into all this and starts to shape a project around it.
He starts looking at footage. He finds old tapes of the previous owner and the family in the pool. He finds photographs. He finds very personal photographs of the wife taken by the husband, the kind of photographs that we might take of our wife in private. And he starts to kind of try and put it into some kind of timeline, into some reference to discover who the ancestors were, and because he's fascinated, that's how his mind works. So we needed footage. So, you know, I went to the weekend, for the weekend I went to New York, and I just took my little DV cam and I shot the Dennis footage for his documentary. We're already in position. We'll just get some pops. And that's really enough pieces.
It's a mass-produced American architectural innovation.
New York, New York, huh?
American architectural innovation.
Stay on the same lens size. And then we just go on a 50 finally. Then I think we've got good coverage. We also needed footage of the previous family in the swimming pool, i.e. Stephen Dorff's wife and his kids, who mysteriously have now vanished and nobody knows quite where they've gone. I cast the mother and the two kids for those characters. We filled up the pool, which we'd just constructed, and we created a little Christmas tree set for Christmas Day, and I shot all that footage. In that instance, I had to be an amateur filmmaker. In the instance of Dennis, I had to be a kind of professional, independent documentary filmmaker, but all on the same camera.
Mr. Massey?
Dale,
No, sir. My name is...
fix that lower gate. Have heifers get out. A truck will kill one, or hurt it bad enough I'll have to put him down.
I'm not Dale.
Chocolate cherries. Bottom drawer.
Mike Figgis made this extraordinary thing where he took a video camera, a regular video camera, and he put it inside this thing that looks like a steering wheel, and he moved the controls of the video camera to the outside of the steering wheel. And so by putting it in this steering wheel thing, his video things appear to be like floating because they're in this steering wheel contraption that Mike made, so that they're not just moving like this, the way that we make our videos at home. They're moving like this. We made an agreement.
Just go back and let him do his line and then cut in.
So you have the movie, and concentrically inside of the movie, you have Dennis's documentaries.
Hey, everybody, just stay together. Follow me.
And Dennis made a lot of them, really himself, while we were in the movie, walking, looking at our new house, or going downstairs. So that the movie is happening, and then you have the video movies that Dennis is making, which become at some points intriguing, and then at some points very, very frightening because of the terrifying things that are happening to us.
Night vision. Okay, hold the light.
Y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
It's back frames. What's that?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Let's say 30, 40 years ago, you were showing documentary footage. It would be a pretty sure bet that very few people in the audience would know the difference from one kind of footage or another, because at that point filmmaking as a hobby was very expensive and, you know, and tricky. There virtually is no one in the audience right now who hasn't handled a DV cam in some way, shape or form, shot their own stuff. You know, everyone's got one. So you have to get it right.
You got a lot of great equipment.
I had a strong conversation with the production department saying, you know, this has got to be correct. When Dennis sits at his workstation with his Mac and his Final Cut Pro, you can't just throw out a bit of old tat. You know, it's a few things with knobs on. People know what it looks like now, and particularly a younger audience. You know, there's a huge film literate audience now.
Bang what happened, bang what happened, till they were all dead. Tommy, Green, Lorna, always be there.
So that stuff is now in the movie, you know, and I think it looks pretty good, you know.
Down the devil's throat.
The house is just a shell, right? You live in it for a while, then things change.
The script for CREEK Manor turned up, and I read it, and the way it was written was very clever. It was in a very subtle and psychological way.
It is a thriller. However, I wanted it to be something that people could connect with and relate to their own lives.
The thriller genre has a lot of room for acting, has a lot of room for psychology. There's room for a lot of tension and psychology with good acting put together create good storytelling. However, there are certain rules about the genre which, you know, you have to obey.
Here we go. Action. You're finding it, you're looking at it. Now, you see something. Use your stick to clear the leaves off. You're uncovering.
The rules of the genre are cut to the chase as quickly as possible, get to the point, and allow the actors to do their thing. It's not about camera work.
Settle everybody. The cue is when Sharon goes underwater, we turn over, not before. Perfect. Okay?
You can't go too slow in a thriller. You can't suddenly observe paint drying beautifully and artistically if there's nothing happening also which is telling the audience, you know, where the plot is going. So I like the compression of plot and storytelling that comes with the genre. I'll just shout reset, Dennis will wait there. We'll get into a new position. All right. Second action, he'll go. Right. And the thing about the genre of the thriller is it's got a nice kind of almost normal beginning, and then, you know, fairly early on you start to get these hints that things aren't quite what they appear to be.
I'm Dale Massey. I used to live here.
So it's structured in the way of true psychological thriller, you know, which I love. I just love that type of structure of film.
The editing of a thriller is a completely different beast from the shooting of, because that's when these rules rear their head and make themselves known. And they're pretty inflexible. I mean, within that, there is flexibility. You can play nice tricks.
Dad, come here! What? Hurry up! There's something over here! Come on!
As long as your dynamic, your tempo is constant.
What is this?
You just can't slow it down too much.
God! Cooper!
The element of surprise is nice. And just having fun watching the unraveling of the drama.
Let's just go back.
Go back to what?
The actors set that up, but the story's key, and the director who arranges the scenes, you know, because if there's holes in the scenes, it's not gonna fly.
And here we go. Locked up, roll it.
He had no stomach for it. Dang, the hammer.
When you do the first cut of the film, there are certain scenes which you thought were kind of indispensable to the plot.
I don't think it's such a good idea for you to drive into town this late at night. I'll go.
And as soon as you see the film playing in that context, the truth is unbearably clear, you know. It's too slow, and the audience is ahead of you. So for me, the golden rule is the audience cannot be too far ahead of the principal characters.
Roll sound.
Action!
He is as much in the dark as the audience is, actually. So he is, in a funny way, rather like the audience for that portion of the movie. He learns what they learn.
In that classic thriller form, Cooper is like all alone with this evidence. His wife's not supportive of him and thinks he's too high-strung. That always makes a funny thing because no one believes you.
Mr. Tilson, this is all circumstantial. This won't hold up in court of law.
The audience might really have doubts of their own about whether or not Dale is really capable of things like that.
I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe that he murdered his wife and his 2 small kids.
Go back to some really great thrillers from the 30s and 40s, and in fact they're almost like plays. There's a couple of locations, and it's really about the psychological confrontation between characters.
I know you put the snakes in my house.
And in those days, it wasn't about special effects.
Yeah.
Why should try and prove that?
The big deal was what the characters did to each other and what they said to each other.
Get out of my face. And get out of my home.
And it has that sort of oppressive feeling, like the bad guy is there and is after you and you're just paralyzed.
They have all this tension, Stephen and Dennis.
We'll have our time, Massey. This isn't it.
Thrillers are always about the story and keeping the pace, but this is like a character-driven thriller, kind of, so there's room for a little bit of flavor in your character.
When your man starts pointing fingers, he better be ready to back it up, don't you think?
Ruby!
So there's all these interesting little dynamics.
Kristen, let's get in the car.
I like films that play with atmosphere, you know, and where there's a strong kind of emotional core to the main characters.
And he's very tuned into the sound, the audio sphere of the movie. Mike has scored many of his movies, and he was excited about doing this.
Really from an early point, I kind of thought it would be interesting to visit another genre altogether, which is what I would call late 40s, early 50s Hollywood music. The music that we associate with thrillers from that period is in fact atonal, you know, avant-garde classical music that got obviously tailor-made to fit the genre of film. And it's always fascinated me, why does that music work in a different way to the music that I would normally choose? You know, what this kind of a chord does, what this kind of a tempo does, how to slightly scare the audience. You can do psychological stuff with the music.
Oh my God!
Mike was developing ideas for the music while he was shooting. And it's great. I mean, it fits the movie perfectly.
The musical sound, it matches like your adrenaline.
There's something very comfortable about the rules. And then really what, you know, are the actors good? Is the story, has it got some nice interesting twists? And is it presented in a fresh way?
It sort of fits the format of a thriller, but it doesn't look and feel like a normal Hollywood movie. And that's great because you're not going for popcorn. You're watching. You want to know what happens next.
One more time, from the top, please.
I've always felt that the thriller genre has a lot of room for the director's input and his particular or her particular take on that situation. So fundamentally, I'm interested in storytelling, and the thriller is a good genre for storytelling.
Do you know what you're getting yourself into?